Hello, and welcome to Return to Regalia, an Underland Chronicles reread podcast. I'm Oona.
And I'm Nate.
Nate, we are so back.
Yes, we are so fucking back indeed.
It's October, it's book 2, and we're ready.
Yes.
We're ready for the Prophecy of Bane.
Yes. Just like Gregor is not ready for the Prophecy of Bane.
We are as ready for the Prophecy of Bane as Gregor is unready for it.
Yes.
Should we jump right into it?
Let's do it.
Today we'll be covering chapters 1, 2, and 3 of the Prophecy of Bane. Chapter 1 starts with Gregor waking up in his bedroom in his family's apartment. He finds a cockroach sitting on his windowsill watching him. Gregor doesn't even have to get up to trap the roach in a jar because his room is so small. We learn that his bedroom is probably supposed to be a storage space, and there's only room for his bed and a narrow dresser. There's also no door, but he actually has more privacy than anyone in the apartment, so he doesn't complain. I was thinking about how this is true. He's the only one with his own room, even if that room really sucks.
Right. Like, the no door part would really get me. Like, hang a curtain or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he would have figured that out by now if he needed that, but...
Yeah. It's rough.
Yeah.
Not even having a way to separate yourself from the rest of the apartment if you need to.
Right, like, especially noise-wise. You can't, like, shut it out when Boots is, like, crying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's rough.
Maybe he's just used to it being a New Yorker.
That's true. Yeah. Everything is like this in New York. It's just always so loud.
Yeah. The narration tells us that more roaches have been invading the apartment lately to watch Gregor, and his mom always kills them if she sees them, so he's having a hard time keeping them alive like he vowed to do after Tick's death in Book 1. Gregor sneaks into the living room with the roach and notes that his mom has already left for her weekend job. His dad is asleep on the pull-out couch, and he's muttering in his sleep. I was wondering why his dad is on the couch.
Yeah, I assume he'd be sleeping in their mom's room, but maybe they don't really have. Maybe both his parents sleep on the pull-out couch.
I was wondering that. Like, is there only one proper bedroom in this apartment?
When my dad had a studio apartment in New Jersey, he had to sleep on a pull-out couch. Like, there was no bedroom, so he would sleep on a pull-out couch, and he would, like, put a wooden board under the mattress because it was so shitty that his back would hurt every morning otherwise. So, yeah, maybe there is only one bedroom, and that's just how they do it.
Yeah. I think also it's possible, though, that Grace and Gregor's dad are not yet, like...
Yeah...
ready to share a bed again after being apart for so long.
Yeah, that's fair.
Or maybe, like, Gregor's dad has nightmares and doesn't want to, like, wake her up with that.
Yeah, that would make sense, because I think Gregor says he does have nightmares.
Yeah. The narration reminds us about Dad's 2.5-year imprisonment by the rats and says... He'd been starved, deprived of light, and physically abused in ways he would never discuss. He was tormented by nightmares, and at times he had trouble separating reality from illusion, even when he was awake. That's rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, clearly he's got some PTSD from the Underland.
Yeah, I want to know, like, how did the rats physically abuse him? Would they just, like, beat him when he wasn't doing what they wanted? Because that seems like... If they're trying to get him to invent stuff, it seems weird that they would also, like, hurt him.
Yeah, I'm not sure that the rats were thinking that far ahead, though.
That's true. They're just like, fuck this guy. Oh, wait, he can make us weapons.
Yeah.
But it's also fun to throw things at him.
Right, yeah, I imagine it was pretty rough.
Yeah.
Regardless of how useful or not he was to the rats.
Yeah, damn, that sucks.
Yeah. Gregor's dad also hasn't been able to shake the illness he got in the Underland, so he's feverish a lot. The narration says, Gregor always thought that everything would be simple once his family was reunited. It was 1,000 times better having his dad back. Gregor knew that, but it was not simple. Because we kind of talked about this at the end of Book 1, the way Gregor had this fantasy of how things would be when his dad got back, and this is just kind of shattering that fantasy.
Right. Like, even when he first meets his dad, he realizes, like, oh, it's not gonna be like how I thought it would be. But now when he's actually living with his dad, it's just like that every day. Like, oh yeah, like, when you mentioned like his dad going missing when his mom was pregnant and how like life-changing that was, I'm just like, yeah, they just had this life-altering event. Their lives will never be the same, and it's still, even now that everybody's back together, like,
Yeah.
it's kind of ruined in a way.
Yeah, there's no coming back from that. And this is just a different life-changing event, is him coming back and
Right.
being so sick.
Right. I wonder, with him being so sick, I always assume like, oh, that's weird that they can't figure it out. But maybe that's like an illness from the underland that is not in like the overland.
Yeah. I think at some point they get medicine from the underland because they know what the illness is.
Oh, nice. That makes sense.
Gregor puts the cockroach in the kitchen trash bin and notes how empty the fridge and cabinets are. He remembers he'll be helping Mrs. Cormaci today, and we learn the story that his family decided to tell people about his and Boots's disappearance. The story is basically that Gregor's dad came back from where he was living in California and picked up the kids to go to Virginia. He thought Gregor had told his mom where they were, but Gregor thought his dad had told her. Mrs. Cormaci didn't believe this story when Gregor told it to her, but when she visited Gregor's dad later and saw how sick he was, she let it go and then offered to hire Gregor to help her around the apartment on Saturdays. Gregor initially didn't want to, but when he realized he could help his family by making some money, he accepted.
I like that when he tells her the story, she initially says something like, come up with a better one for next time. But she also doesn't ask him to elaborate. She's just like, I know you're lying, kid, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'll let you have this one. Mrs. Cormaci's such a real one.
Mm-hmm.
So now every Saturday, Gregor goes to Mrs. Cormaci's to help her with chores, and while he's there, she feeds him amazing food. The first time he helped her, she sent him home with $40, an old coat, and a lasagna.
Yes.
She said, I can't take 3 lasagnas to the fundraiser. People take 2. You walk in with 3 and everybody thinks you're a big show-off. And what? I'm going to eat it with my cholesterol?
That's my favorite. God.
My brother and I quote that to each other all the time. Like, we use it the way some people say, like, in this economy. Like, we say, with my cholesterol.
That's really funny.
To everything. And we say it in the accent that the audiobook uses, which is like this heavy, like, New York grandma accent.
I looked it up because I was really curious, and Google tells me Cormaci is an Italian name, and less reliably says that it means educated.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I guess that explains, like, why she's making lasagna and, like, why. And I feel like it's kind of a stereotypical, like, she's like, please eat something.
Right. She's, like, maybe the Italian grandma.
Right.
Yeah, she's the best. And I always just, like, loved the food descriptions.
Yes.
When I was a kid, I would just, like, hear about Gregor getting to eat all of this lasagna and scalloped potatoes and just being like, why can't I eat good food like that?
Yeah, it, like, reminds me of, like, the food descriptions in, like, Harry Potter or in Little Men, this book I really liked. You just read it and, like, you either get hungry or feel like you're eating something while you're reading it. It's like, yeah, this book is so filling.
Yeah, truly. Or, like, food in a Studio Ghibli movie.
Oh, yeah.
Love that stuff. Back in the present, Lizzie walks into the kitchen and asks if there's enough food for today. Gregor starts making oatmeal for everyone and tells her that he's not hungry even though his stomach is growling. He's such a good brother.
Mm-hmm.
He's just like, no, I don't need to eat. I'll be at Mrs. Cormaci's and my sisters are hungry, so I'm going to make everyone oatmeal and I don't need to eat. He's such a, like, self-sacrificing hero.
And I like how he does this while also, like, saying to himself, like, Lizzie shouldn't know how little food we had if she's younger. And it's like, bro, you're 11.
Yeah. Throughout these chapters, there's, like, comments of, like, well, Lizzie should get to go sledding because she's only 7. And it's like, you're 11, Gregor. Like, you're also a child. But he just doesn't think of himself that way at all. Yeah, it's kind of a recurring theme in the book, I would say, is Gregor not being able to have a childhood. Gregor promises to take Lizzie and Boots sledding later as long as their dad doesn't have a fever. Gregor goes over to Mrs. Cormaci's, and when she asks him what he wants for Christmas, he just shrugs. And I'm thinking this is probably just because he didn't expect to get anything. Like, he just isn't thinking about what he wants for Christmas because he knows he's not going to get it, which sucks. Mrs. Cormaci sends him home with the money, a vat of scalloped potatoes, and a pair of her son's old work boots.
The boots, I feel like the boots become very important later.
Yeah, you're right, they
Yes.
do. Yeah, they're too big for Gregor. He has to put on extra socks and stuff newspaper in the toes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he wears the boots for like all of this book and the next one.
Oh shit, yeah.
Or half of the next one. I think they get eaten by acid at some point.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. I was like, I know these boots get destroyed somehow.
Yeah. But it is actually kind of a big part of the plot because first of all, the boots save his toes from getting eaten by acid.
Right. Oh yeah.
And then he gets weird lizard shoes from Hamnet. And then when he goes back to the overland, he's still wearing the lizard shoes. And Mrs. Cormaci is like, here, I got you these other shoes. Do you remember this?
Yes. Oh wait, and they're like new shoes, but she pretends she got them by accident for some reason.
I think that she buys them specifically for him.
Oh, okay.
But he has to like tell her the story about the Underland because he's wearing his weird lizard shoes. So yeah, it all starts with these work boots.
Dang.
I think shoes are, if we can be English majors for a second, shoes are a really good indicator of like a character, especially in this book. Gregor says that he only has one pair of shoes and the sole is coming off, and when he's walking to school and there's like he steps in a puddle, his feet will just be wet all day at school. And that's such an indicator of like his family's poverty. And there are lots of details in these chapters that show the situation that his family is in. But I feel like the shoes are really like a big deal and kind of symbolic. You can tell a lot about a person by looking at their shoes, you know?
Yeah, like it's a good class indicator because like clothes are something you can get more cheaply, and if they don't fit you exactly, it's okay. But like shoes are much harder to get.
Yeah, the idea of Gregor having to like go through his entire day with like wet like socks because of his shoes falling apart, and he just like doesn't get to have new ones. It sucks. But now he's got good boots that he can wear for a while because they're too big for him right now. Gregor goes home and sees that his dad isn't feeling well. Lizzie offers to stay home and look after him, but asks Gregor to pick up some fever medicine before he takes Boots to the park. On the way home, Gregor buys a book of puzzles and some oranges for Lizzie. She gets really excited when he gives her the book because she loves all kinds of puzzles. She also likes anagrams, and we learn that when Gregor told her about the Underland and the Rat King Gorger, she pointed out that Gregor and Gorger share the same letters. And this isn't relevant until literally the last book.
I totally forgot about that. I was going to say, and this is never relevant again. But...
No, this is planting the seed very early. This is foreshadowing like very far in advance. And I didn't actually realize this until I was taking my notes for this episode, but the narration literally says that Lizzie was sucking on an orange slice and happily cracking a cryptogram, and the coat of claw is literally a cryptogram.
Oh, shit. Oh, man.
She's literally doing a cryptogram for fun, and we learn about her figuring out the anagram of Gregor and Gorger, and also cracking a cryptogram in, like, the same page in the second book. And none of that is relevant again until like halfway through the last book. It's so good. I'm just in awe. Gregor and Boots ride the subway to Central Park to go sledding. Okay, when I was a kid, tell me if this was also your experience. When I was a kid, I had no idea how big Central Park was.
Yeah, I think so. I went there once, and I still don't know how big it is.
I just went a couple years ago on my big road trip, and Central Park is gigantic. Like, I did not realize. I was walking through Central Park with my friends and looking at everything, and it just, like, goes on forever, and I was like, wow, all of those scenes in Gregor and Percy Jackson make sense now.
Yeah, that's so true.
Because when I was a kid, the only parks that we ever went to were, like, very tiny. Like, there was one playground structure, and that was it. And, like, that was a park to me. So I didn't understand when these authors wrote about Central Park, like, how big it was.
And it's just got like all these different sections. Like there's a carousel, or there used to be a carousel. There's like rock formations you can climb on. There's like a playground in it, but it's not the whole thing.
Yeah, especially like when I was a kid, we used to go sledding at this like one park that had a very big hill, and we called it Big Hill Park.
Classic.
And when I read this part of the book where Boots and Gregor go sledding, I picture Big Hill Park because that's what I always pictured as a kid. But that park is so tiny, and I have to like readjust my image to be like, no, this place is huge, and like it's really scary that Boots just disappeared. And
oh yeah, true.
yeah, because there was nowhere to disappear to in Big Hill Park, so it's like wild. Like you would not want to lose track of a toddler in Central Park.
No.
Gregor watches Boots play and thinks about how Christmas is coming up, which makes him anxious because his family doesn't have any money for presents. This distracts him for a moment, and when he looks around for Boots, she's vanished.
Not good.
Not good. That takes us right into chapter 2, with Gregor calling out to Boots and looking around for her frantically. He hears a dog barking nearby and goes to ask the owner if they've seen her. He finds the dog running in a circle around a stick, and when the owner comes to apologize, Gregor doesn't respond because he realizes that it's not a stick at all. It's a shiny black insect leg, like from a giant roach.
Not good. I can't remember how the roach actually lost its legs, so it's like, first of all, ow, that's not good. Second of all, did the dog get in a fight with this cockroach?
That is such a good question. I've never thought to question why the cockroach lost its leg. I guess I just assumed that it got stuck in the rock slab when they were replacing it.
That makes sense.
And that's just like not an issue for bugs because they'll grow back limbs, I think.
Right. Yeah, like I never know if bugs feel pain or not.
I don't know. In this, I think so.
Okay, because doesn't Temp or Tick lose half an antenna or lose an antenna?
Temp has a bent antenna.
Okay.
And I think that, I might be making this up, at some point someone is like, the roaches will grow back legs.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, no, I never thought about the dog perhaps getting into a fight with the cockroach. I just assumed the cockroach leg was already there, and the dog found it and was freaked out.
I think, yeah, probably. I feel like if my dog saw a giant cockroach, she would just like stand there and raise her hackles and growl, like when she saw a horse.
Yeah. What would Lola do if she saw a giant roach?
Either she would like freeze or run, or maybe she'd just be like she'd want to eat it.
Yeah, she does. She'll do that weird like clicking thing that she does.
Lola, she's right there. Lola, what would you do if you saw a giant cockroach?
No comment.
No comment.
Gregor notices the slab of rock on the ground that covers the entrance to the tunnel they took to get home from the Underland that summer. He pulls Boots' red mitten out from under the edge of the rock and realizes that the cockroaches must have kidnapped her and taken her underground. Gregor takes out his cell phone and calls home. He says that his family can't really afford a cell phone, but his mom insisted they get one anyway for this exact kind of situation. Gregor quickly explains to his dad that he has to return to the Underland to get Boots back from the roaches. Dad tries to tell him to wait for him, but Gregor insists he has to go now or the roaches will get too far away. Dad asks if he has a light, and Gregor remembers a mini flashlight Mrs. Cormaci gave him that he clipped to his key ring. She just always knows what's up.
Right? I feel like there's so many Mrs. Cormaci Chekhov's guns, or whatever you would call it. Just like...
Yeah.
It's great. It's great because she has no idea what's actually happening, and she's just like, have some boots, have a light, and she has no idea how useful these things will be.
Yeah, exactly. I think actually this might be a indicator of perhaps she actually can tell the future and she actually does have the gift.
Oh shit, right.
Because I think at some point Gregor also mentions that this flashlight is waterproof, and he when he first got it, he thought, like, I won't need this in the water. But then he goes on a trip on the waterway, and he's like, how did Mrs. Cormaci know that I would need this?
I love that. Okay, I'm actually fully behind the theory that Mrs. Cormaci is slightly...
clairvoyant?
Yes.
Yeah. Gregor and his dad tell each other, see you soon, and Gregor lowers himself into the hole. He tries to recall the route Ares took when he flew them home the last time he was here, and he starts running in that direction. Gregor thinks about how upset his mom will be that he's back in the Underland, and recalls what happened when they first got home that summer. They told her the story several times, but she didn't believe them until Boots started chattering about the big bugs. The narration says, at dawn, she decided to believe them. At 1 minute after dawn, she was down in the laundry room, nailing, screwing, gluing, doing everything she could to seal shut the grate they'd all fallen through.
Love that.
I love this description of, like, at dawn, she decided to believe them. At 1 minute after dawn, she decided to do something about it.
Yeah.
Like, Grace is a woman of action.
Yeah.
She knows what to do.
Yeah, but just, it must be so rough now when they're like, yeah, so there was another entrance and the kids are gone again. I would just like...
Oh my god, you're right. Like, imagine Grace gets home from her shift at the cafe.
Oh my god.
And they're like, guess who's disappeared again?
I wouldn't even know how to tell her. If I was Gregor's dad, I'd be like, oh god.
Yeah.
One thing that surprised me, which I guess makes sense, is that Gregor's dad isn't mad when he said he lost Boots, because I'd be like, bro, why weren't you watching her? But like, Gregor's dad gets it. Gregor's dad knows. But Gregor's mom, I feel like, would be like, are you serious right now, Gregor?
Yeah. For sure. Because she's always like, you guys have to stick together.
Right.
But like, Gregor's dad knows how obsessed the roaches are with Boots.
Right.
So it's actually kind of a recurring thing that Gregor's mom never fully understands the scope and the stakes of the Underland, and Gregor's dad is much more like sympathetic when Gregor has to go back to the Underland or go on a quest, and Grace is just like, nope, you can't do that. You gotta stay home. You can't go on a quest.
Right, like because he's grounded.
Yeah. Grace declared the laundry room off limits, and the family started going to a laundromat 3 blocks away instead. Gregor jogs through the tunnels and thinks he might just be getting himself lost in a maze, but then he finds Boots' other red mitten.
Almost as if it was deliberate.
You think Boots was dropping her mittens to let Gregor know where she was?
I thought it wasn't there. Aren't the rats like involved somehow? I thought they were dropping, like, or the roaches are.
The roaches took Boots, the rats are after them.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like leaving hints. Okay, never mind.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
She just really can't hold on to those mittens.
She can't. Lucky that she didn't have those little clips that, like,
oh my God,
attached to her sleeves.
Yeah.
Did you used to have those?
I don't think I ever did, but I was really like, whenever I had mittens, I was like, I love these so much. These are the best. So be very careful with that.
Aww.
Yeah.
I think I had those little things that clip to your sleeves.
Nice.
On the floor, Gregor spots a bunch of insects and mice running past him, clearly trying to get away from something. When he shines his flashlight behind him, he sees 2 giant rats galloping toward him.
Not a good word to hear applied to rats.
Yeah, just the word galloping is so evocative in this moment. Can you just imagine, like, a 6-foot rat kind of just, like, lunging forward at you?
And it's dark.
Yeah.
You have one flashlight.
You can only see it in the beam of your flashlight.
Oh, God.
That's terrifying. I'm just imagining it right now and it's freaking me out. Chapter 3 begins with Gregor turning and running as fast as he can away from the rats. He wonders why they're so close to the surface, but decides he can think about that later. He collides with a stomach-high wall and drops his flashlight through a circular stone opening that he recognizes as the one Ares took them through to bring them home. Somewhere far below is the waterway, the huge underland ocean. Gregor lowers himself down into the opening and hangs from the edge by his fingers. At first he hopes the rats won't see him, but then he realizes the rats don't need to see him because they'll be able to smell him.
Still hasn't learned to echolocate.
Yeah.
Come on, Gregor.
Rookie move. Amateur hour. The rats approach and start laughing at him for trying to hide. Just as Gregor is weighing his options of either fighting the rats in the dark or falling into the waterway, he hears a voice say, "Drop, Overlander."
Yeah.
Here he comes. The rats hear the voice too and rush to kill him, but Gregor lets go before they can get to him. The narration says, he could hear the scrape of claws on the stone ledge he had been clinging to moments before, along with a volley of strange rat curses. What swears do you think the rats are using?
Like, oh my tail. Or like, what do we say? What's like, I'm trying to think, like, you call somebody a bitch, like, but rats don't have dogs. I mean,
I have no idea.
What's a bad thing you could do as a rat?
Ooh.
Having teeth that are long and you haven't broken them down yet.
Oh.
Like, oh, you long tooth piece of...
Oh, man. I feel like this could devolve into like a wizard swears thing. Did you watch that video as a kid?
I might have. I don't remember.
Oh my god. Me and my brother would watch that video like over and over again. Anyway. Gregor falls for a bit and lands on Ares' back. Ares apologizes for letting him fall so far because he knows Gregor doesn't like it, but he was getting his flashlight back for him.
That's hilarious. He's like, hang on, bro, just a minute.
Yeah, it'll just be a second. I'm getting your flashlight. He calls it his light stick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. As they fly, Gregor rants to Ares about how the cockroaches kidnapped Boots. Ares tries to break in and explain what the roaches were doing, but Gregor keeps interrupting him. Come on, Gregor.
Yeah, don't you have manners? Just because your sister's been kidnapped by cockroaches is not an excuse to be rude.
Gregor's usually very polite, except when he is in a crisis like this.
Right. I mean, usually, except when he's worried about Boots. Like, it's like he goes into protect Boots mode.
Yeah. She's like his weak spot.
Yes.
That's kind of like a theme in this book, is that Boots is like, because part of the prophecy that we're gonna hear in the next chapters after this is die the baby, die his heart. And they all think that it's about Boots at first. Like, they're afraid that the rats are going to try to kill Boots to get to Gregor. And that makes, like, total sense, because Gregor is constantly freaking out about Boots.
Right.
This book series would be so much more different if it wasn't for Boots. Like, imagine that Gregor was just alone.
Yeah, he would be... Like, I feel like you would have somehow much less to live for, because a lot of what he does is, like, gotta take care of Boots, gotta protect Boots.
Yeah, gotta get Boots and myself back home.
Like, I feel like he would have given up sooner if he didn't have Boots, which is sad, but...
I feel like he would have more, like, main character syndrome.
Oh my god, yeah.
If he didn't have Boots.
Yeah.
To keep him grounded. Eventually, Gregor demands that Ares take him to the roaches, and Ares flips him over onto a stone ridge and pins him to the ground. Ares says, "I do not take orders from you, Overlander. Let us be clear on this from the start." When Gregor asks what Ares' problem is, he tells him, "My problem is that at this moment, you are reminding me a great deal of Henry." Ouch.
Yeah. At this moment, you're reminding me of the guy who I let fall off a cliff. He literally was like, I let him fall off a cliff to save you, and now you're being a dick just like him.
Yeah. Gregor gets his first good look at Ares' face and realizes how angry he is. The narration reminds us how Ares saved Gregor's life, and Gregor saved Ares from banishment. It says, "They were bonded together and had sworn to fight to the death for each other, but they had never exchanged more than a handful of words. As Ares glared down at him, Gregor realized he knew next to nothing about the bat." We kind of talked about this at the end of book 1 as well, that Gregor and Ares owe each other their lives, but they really aren't friends yet.
And it's so fun. Like, I remember when this happened the first time I read it, I was like, what? They already hate each other? But it's like, it's such a good twist. Like, it could have been just like, and they're kind of chill. They don't really know each other, but it's like, no, you are bonded forever and you hate each other.
Yeah.
Like, that's great.
It's such a good dynamic. Like, I'm thinking even just in Percy Jackson, like, he rides around on Blackjack, and Blackjack just loves Percy because he's a horse, and Percy's the horse guy.
Yeah.
But, like, Ares and Gregor are equals, and they have this, like, complex social dynamic going on here.
Right, because it's like Gregor's not from this world where humans and bats are equals, so he doesn't know all the like, what do you call it?
Custom?
Yeah, like ramifications of stuff and implications of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And Ares is like this outcast who has been saved by Gregor, which could almost feel like, oh, I owe you something.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
but Ares is not gonna put up with his shit.
Right.
Also.
Right.
Ares has probably been through some shit the past couple months.
Yeah, that's so true. He's also, because Gregor kind of like, obviously Gregor had to leave and Ares agreed with him leaving, but he kind of abandoned him.
Yeah.
Like in this society where every bat is supposed to have a human, Ares is just like single.
Yeah.
He's an incel in the bat world.
Shut up. No, I won't accept that.
That's the quote for this episode. It's like,
no. The quote card.
Yeah.
We'll see. At Gregor's prompting, Ares goes on about Henry, saying, "You remember, I let him smash to his death on the rock so that I could give you more time. And right now, I am wondering if I should not have let you both fall, because, like Henry, you are under the impression that I am your servant." I mean, like, get him, Ares. But also, that's so brutal.
Yeah. At least he didn't say, "I'm sorry, I wish I had grabbed Henry instead," because that would suck.
Yeah, I don't think that he would say that, because, like, obviously Henry was a jerk.
Right.
And evil. But, yeah, just the idea that, like, Ares could have not saved either of them. Like, that's wild. Yeah, because, like, obviously I don't think Ares really means this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he doesn't actually wish that Gregor was dead right now, but, like, he's trying to make a point of, like, we owe each other. Like,
right.
It's not just that I owe you for saving me from banishment. Like, we've saved each other's lives.
Right.
We're equals. And we get this little hint about how Henry didn't treat Ares like an equal, which we get a little more detail on later in the book. But this is just kind of like a taste of that backstory. It's really interesting how Henry just continues to haunt the narrative for the rest of the books.
Yeah.
Even though he dies in the first one and he never comes back, but, like, he gets mentioned in every book, I feel like.
Because he was such an important person in all the characters' lives except for Gregor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gotta be so wild mourning somebody who, like, as they died, they were betraying you.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even like, oh, he was so great. It's like, he was kind of a dick, and he would have let me die, but you still love him. Like, that's hard.
Yeah. I think that Ares probably owed Henry a lot, too. We'll get to this later when this comes up again with Ares. But there's kind of like a hint that Ares maybe was, like, in trouble, and Henry saved him from being an outcast by choosing him to bond with. So I think that Henry probably felt that Ares owed him for that as well. So that's, like, a really complicated thing to just, like, have carrying around after that person dies. Gregor insists he just wants to get his sister back, and Ares assures him that he's trying to help. Gregor admits he was rude to interrupt Ares before and apologizes, but then he demands that Ares get off his chest, and Ares makes him say please before he lets him go. Gregor sits up and complains that Ares' claws put holes in his jacket, and Ares reminds him that the regalians will burn his clothes anyway. The narration says, "It was at that moment that Gregor decided he was bonded to a big jerk, and he felt pretty sure that Ares had come to the same conclusion."
That's great.
Yeah, I love that. That Gregor is not only realizing that he is bonded to a jerk, like, he's realizing that Ares is a jerk, but he's also realizing that Ares thinks that he's a jerk.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's got enough emotional intelligence to understand that, like, Ares also thinks that he is being unfair.
That's so true. It's so funny. They're just both flying back in the dark, like, fuck this guy.
Also, just, I want to talk about, like, the jacket, because in the audiobook, when Gregor says, like, look at what you did to my jacket, it's kind of snotty, and he says it kind of like, oh man, like, why'd you have to do that? But literally, like, that's probably his only jacket, and he's probably not going to be able to get another one very easily.
Right, that's what I was thinking. Like, that legitimately sucks.
Yeah, it sucks if it gets destroyed, and Ares just has no idea, like, what that means.
Do bats even have, like, money in the Underland?
Who's to say?
And it's just like, why do you not just grow a coat of fur, idiot?
Well, yeah, it's just like Gregor is constantly thinking about clothes and food and money. This kind of comes back to the shoes discussion. Like, Gregor is very aware of what he owns and, like, how he has to take care of the things that he has because he doesn't get new ones very often. And just the idea that Ares is telling him, like, well, it doesn't matter anyway, they're gonna get burned. And Gregor's like, oh, that's bad. Like, that's no good.
Yeah, he's really the only person in the Underland who has to, like, think about that a lot. Like, Vicus and oh my god, why have I forgotten her name? Luxa are, like, they, like, care about resources, but they're also, like, pretty rich themselves.
Right.
Like,
yeah, they're, like, royalty.
And the bats and the rats and the animals don't seem to have as much, like, they don't really need clothes.
Yeah.
And, like, many possessions like humans do.
Yeah, there's talk of, like, trading between the species, but we never get details on that. Like, to what extent capitalism exists in this society. Yeah, no, I don't think they ever talk about money, just resources very vaguely.
Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think do they have currency?
I don't think they ever mention it.
Okay.
So I'm not sure.
Yeah, the only human money they mention is in the museum in, like, all the pockets of the coats.
Right. Yeah, Marith is, like, gives Gregor money at the end of the last book. I mean, book 1.
Right.
And he's like, Vicus said you might need this to travel. And I'm wondering if they just don't have money. I don't know.
It kind of seems like they don't, because they're kind of like, the society's, like, united around war. Like, they have all these warriors and they're, like, training for this stuff. Like, it seems like the kind of world where you would just get, like, rations, sort of.
Yeah.
Because it's such a small, it's not, I feel like it's like smaller than, like, New York, probably.
Yeah, I think Vicus says there's, like, 800 people in Regalia.
Yeah, I feel like that's enough where, like, the government just feeds everybody in return for you helping defend against the rats.
Yeah. Maybe if you join the military, you get more or something.
Right. Classic.
Yeah. I'm sure that people have written fan fictions where they sort all this out.
Oh my god, yeah.
Tell us in the comments, do you think that the Regalians use money? And how do you think that all works? So Gregor asks Ares why they have to go to Regalia, and Ares reveals that the crawlers are taking Boots there because the rats have sworn to kill her. And that is the end of chapter 3.
Dang. First of all, I guess that the crawlers, their hearts are in the right place, but, like, literally the easiest place for Boots to not get killed by rats is in the overland, where if somebody sees a giant rat, they'll be like, hey, what the fuck?
Gregor makes that argument, though, and they're like, well, what about the small rats?
Oh, that's true. I forgot. Yeah, they are in the control of the big rats. Mm-hmm. Just like how the small roaches obviously talk to the big roaches, and they're like, yo, Gregor's cool.
Yeah.
Go hang out in his house.
Yeah. Go keep an eye on him.
Yeah, that's rough, because, like, the crawlers, their hearts are in the right place, but everybody's like, no, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, and yeah, obviously they're trying what they did. Like, they kidnapped her without telling Gregor where she was.
Yeah, and that is so scary.
Yeah.
I think at one point Gregor, I just keep saying, like, in this book this happens, because I have memorized these fucking books, but, like, Gregor tells Temp, like, well, you just scared me, you shouldn't have taken her like that, and Temp, like, doesn't understand. Like, he's like, are you angry at me? But yeah, those are the first 3 chapters.
Yeah.
It's quite the introduction to the second book.
Yeah, we get, like, Mrs. Cormaci, we get, like, the situation with Boots and Gregor's family, and then we get the situation with Gregor and Ares, and kind of a hint into the climate of the general underland right now.
Yeah. It's just like right off the bat, getting chased by rats through the tunnels. Right off the bat. I didn't do that on purpose. But yeah, no, it does a really great job of setting up, like, it's almost Christmas, and Gregor is thinking about, like, they're thinking about money, and Gregor's dad is sick, and it's kind of setting up all of these things that Gregor has to deal with in the overland, that he's going to take that stress with him into the underland, but, like, now he's got bigger problems.
Right, he's kind of, like, thinking about all his problems, and then the cockroaches are like, oh, you thought those were your problems,
yeah.
huh?
We'll show you problems. Yeah, and he's gonna have to come back to all that at the end of the book.
Right. It's like the opposite of escape. Well, I guess he's escaping, but he's escaping into a worse thing, and then he's going back to a thing that's, like, slightly not as bad.
Yeah.
Every time I think about this, I just think about how much the opposite of Harry Potter is. Like, I guess, like, Harry Potter, his things are also bad for him, but, like, during the year, he lives with his terrible, abusive aunt and uncle, and then he goes to a place where, like, he eats a lot of food, and all he has to really worry about is, like, Voldemort's trying to kill him, but that's not happening all the time.
Yeah.
And then Gregor goes from, like, his house where it's, like, things are pretty rough, and then he goes into this underland where, like, everybody's like, yo, they're trying to kill us, they're trying to kill you, you have to kill them first. And he's like,
they're trying to kill your baby sister. Yeah, I know.
And he doesn't have money, and it's not, like, there's no, like, kind of magical sense of wonder that's, like, kind of shields him from some of the worst things.
Yeah.
He's only the chosen one in the worst possible sense.
Yeah, you're right. There's really no upside to being the chosen one in this book.
I guess you do get, well, you don't get, but he does have a bat friend. That eventually is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Oh, and then he dies. So never mind. He gets a sword. Maybe the sword is cool.
The sword is a perk. Yeah. Pretty sure Harry Potter also gets a sword, though.
Oh, yeah. But does he get to keep that one?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't know.
Oh, wait, no, I'm getting that mixed up with the basilisk thing. I forget what the sword does.
Neville kills the snake with the sword.
Oh, yeah. Wait, but a different snake than the
Yeah, it's like Voldemort's, like, pet snake.
Oh, yeah. Nagini,
I think.
Yeah.
Whatever.
What? Yeah.
We hate Harry Potter. It's not as good as Gregor.
Co-signed.
We talk a lot about Harry Potter on this podcast, but we don't give a shit about Harry Potter. Yeah. Percy Jackson and Gregor forever.
Yes. High five, handshake. We're handshaking right now.
It's just important to me that people know that we don't like Harry Potter.
Right. We are not supporters.
Anyway, yeah, so we've got that whole setup to this book, and it really, like, gets into it right away. The rats are chasing him. We've got drama with Ares. We've got drama with Boots.
We've got delicious lasagnas from Mrs. Cormaci.
Yes.
Yeah, I just really like how she had to think of another way for them to get into the underworld, into the underland, because, like, at the beginning of the book, it's like an accident. I feel like it must have been so hard to be like, how can I not make this seem like a stupid coincidence again? Mm-hmm. And she went different entrance, and this time the reason they're taking Boots is the reason for the plot of the book.
Yes.
Like, it really works.
You're right. I hadn't considered the fact that she did have to figure out a way to get them back down there without it being like, oh, we're falling by accident again.
Oops, we all tripped in the laundry room.
Yeah. Like, Gregor is making the conscious decision to go after Boots in this moment.
Right, that's so true. Like, and really, I think every time after this, he has to make the conscious decision.
Yeah.
Because only in the first book can it, like, be satisfying if he's just down there by accident. Every other time.
Yeah.
It has to be, like, his choice.
Yes.
He has to have agency.
Yeah. I'm really interested in looking at the different ways that Gregor is kind of, like, brought back to the Underland in each book.
I'm trying to remember. I know when he goes down for fun, and then they're like, no, dude, you also have to go on a quest. In the third book, they get, like, threatened into going to solve the plague, go on a quest for the plague, and then by book 4, they're, like, regularly spending time in the Underland, and they're down there for Hazard's birthday. Oh, yeah.
And then, Luxa and Gregor are just like, oh no, the mice are in trouble. Let's go have a picnic.
Oh, right. And then it turns...
They're like, let's go do a quest. Wait, did we say quest? We meant picnic. And then he starts the last book in the Underland already.
Right, like they're not even like no prologue in the Overland now, like getting right down to it.
All of these books have a little like intro part except for the last book. Like we get a little bit of normalcy. We get the mundane world. This is very like hero's journey. Like we get to hang out at the beginning in the mundane world and establish like a baseline of like this is what Gregor's reality is like. And we hang out with his family for a bit, and then he gets dunked into the quest. Yeah, but then by the time that he gets to the 5th book, he's already so deep in it. It's like we don't even get that taste of normalcy at the beginning.
Yeah, I really like that. Like just ramping it up.
Yeah.
Up the tension.
Yeah, that's a good escalation of like getting him to come back to the Underland.
I think Mrs. Cormaci is my favorite part of these 3 chapters. She's just great.
Yeah, she really is.
Mrs. Cormaci and Ripred. That's where it's at.
Yeah, it's a shame they never got to meet.
Oh my god.
Can you imagine?
Oh my god. She'd be like, you better be treating those kids well. And he's like, of course I am. I put butter on them before I eat their flesh. And then they both like have a laugh.
I think Mrs. Cormaci like gives Gregor leftovers to take to Ripred at some point.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I think she does.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
She's like, but you have to, I don't want that rat licking my bowl. So she like puts it in a paper bag or something. Why do I know these books so well?
No. Gregor just like goes over to Mrs. Cormaci's house one day, and Ripred is like already there, and they're like having coffee. He's like sitting on a plastic bag over the chair.
They're playing Scrabble.
Oh my god! Gregor, and I see you to join us.
Oh, they're like shit talking him behind his back, and Ripred's like, "Don't you hate it when he does this?" And Mrs. Cormaci's like, "Yeah, I always thought that was weird."
And then romance blooms.
You can write this fan fiction, Nathan. I believe in you.
Thank you. It's been so long since Mr. Cormaci died, and Ripred lost his whole family. They're two broken people. Who can find like sympathy and understanding in each other.
Yes. Oh my god, 2 broken people. They're so alike. They're parallels.
They both like food. They both care about Gregor, but they don't always show it in the most direct way because they know he won't accept it.
Oh my god, you're right. I think there's an argument to be made here for Cormaci x Ripred.
I think you're so right. Like we know they're both sensual lovers. I'm so sorry.
Do you know about the game Slash?
No.
It's like a card game where all of the cards are characters from like fictional media, and you have to like the person who's it plays a character, and then each person has to play a character that they think they would like match with, and you make the argument of like why these 2 characters should be together, but it's from like across all media. So it's like Velma from Scooby-Doo x the shark from Jaws.
Totally. That would 100% work.
Yeah.
That sounds like such a fun game. We should play that.
Yeah, we should definitely get that.
We could make our own cards.
Yeah.
We could put like Psych in there or something.
Yes. Oh my god. Don't even get me started. We'll have to make this game.
Oh yeah.
That can be a bonus episode. Us playing our own version of Slash.
Oh my god, just with like people from the Underground Chronicles mocking what's it called? Hunger Games?
Yes.
Like how many books has Suzanne Collins written? Can we get the Brother Bear people in there? Is that weird?
Yes. Yeah. I'm down.
Yes.
Throw Percy Jackson in there
too. Oh
my
yeah, we should totally do this.
We'll make it happen.
Yes, I got all this printer paper. We can make so many little cards.
Yes. Well, until then, thank you so much for joining me, Nate.
Yeah, it's been good to be here.
Yeah, next week's episode is going to cover chapters 4, 5, and 6. Don't forget to follow us on Tumblr, Instagram, and YouTube at Return to Regalia. Send us your questions and theories at returntoregalia@gmail.com.
And let me know if there's any Mrs. Cormaci / Ripred fanfiction already out there. Please.
The Please. Thank you for listening, and until next time, fly you high.
Fly you high.